Welcome! The Sailing Alpha is here, and I want to explore every little bit of it. So, let's dive in. First things first, you are going to want to log into the main game. I know the alpha's here. Just give it a second. You're going to open up the settings. You're going to type convert. You're going to find this button that says convert save to beta worlds. This is going to save you from having to do character creation, and it's going to make sure that you have your stats when you log into the alpha. Okay, now that we're good on that, you'll have to log out and then find yourself whatever alpha world you want to go into. Now, if you're using RuneLite, you may not be able to see this right away. You're going to want to open up your plugin hub and type out GPU. You're looking for this GPU experimental plugin. Once that's installed, make sure that is the one that is active. And I'd also recommend turning your fog depth down to 0. If it's up at 1, sometimes you can get some weird graphical things happening, but once all that's in place, you should be able to see this code, which means you're good to log into the alpha. Once you load in, it's going to teleport you into Port Sarim, and the first thing I want to show you is the alpha guide here. This is kind of like your quick one-stop shop to all of the different things that you can do, and if you ever get a bit lost, you can click into these items and you can see what the specific tasks are, and check the frequently asked questions tab. This thing has saved me a lot when I've gotten stuck on certain things, so definitely keep this in mind. It's hard to miss. It's always right here. Even if you close your chat, you're always going to be able to see this here and just click it to get the information up on the screen. Now, the first thing that you're going to have to do is the Introductory Quest. You can do this by talking to either Will or Annie, doesn't matter. I'm not necessarily going to show you the entire quest. I may highlight a couple of points where I got stuck on some of these, just so it can kind of keep you going, because you don't have a quest helper, unfortunately, for this one. It took me 20 minutes, all right? I feel embarrassed about it. If you do better than 20 minutes, you're doing better than I did. But this sort of functions in a similar way to what we have with like herb lore, where you can't really train the skill until you've done this introductory quest thing. So let me get this underway, but I will see you at the island of Pandemonium. Okay, I guess I am gonna highlight some things. Once you're through all of the dialogue, the first thing that you're gonna wanna do is, for moving the boats, you wanna click navigate the helm. They do tell you to do this. Something that I like, if you're a spacebar warrior, you just don't always see this stuff. And they do have this nice little like heads up here. The things that you're looking for, once you have clicked navigate the helm, you'll be on here. You'll notice this little like interface opening up on the right. You can click set the sails, which is going to start you moving forward, or you can just click the sails themselves. Both are totally fine. For this quest, you're just going to go straight south, and then you're going to run into sort of like a cutscene deal. You can kind of go around this for a while, but if you end up going too off course, one of the NPCs will just take the helm and force you to the location for the quest. But I will let this kind of teach you the basics of movement. We'll talk about movement a little bit more here in a minute. And in case you're having trouble finding the NPCs once you get to the island, you've got Steve here behind the bar. Ribs is the next guy that you want to talk to, and he's going to be over here in kind of like the northern section of the bar. Junior Jim is over here just a little bit more northeast on this second boat once you leave the bar. He's the guy who's going to give you your initial ship. Don't get crazy. You have to finish this quest, so don't do something like home teleport or whatever, otherwise you're going to get stuck. If you do end up getting stuck, you can log into the main world, reconvert your save file, that'll restart you. I'm totally not saying this from experience of trying to cheat this quest. Oh my god, okay, well, I'll see you at the end of your little port task run. We'll talk more about those in a minute. I will say, on your way back to deliver the cargo, definitely make sure to talk to the port master. I've also had this glitch out if I just deposited it straight up at the table here, just to be safe, you know what I mean? Cool, there we go. Now that this is done, the skill is opened up to you. Now, I would recommend completing the Prying Times mini quest. You can do this by talking to Steve. You can also find it down here in the quest list, Prying Times. I'm not going to worry about it myself for this, but that is one, while you're kind of running around and exploring, I would recommend just pick it up while you're here, because you're going to be going back and forth between Port Sarim a little bit. But now that the skills open up, let's talk about a couple of things that are here in the Sailing Alpha. So for starters, you probably noticed some other types of boats running around. At level 10, you're going to get a free one of these small boats. You've also got this raft here. Both are totally fine. They move at the same speed. I don't know if that's going to be a permanent thing because it's an alpha, but in general, the movement feels pretty good. The turns, you get a little bit of wide turns because you're on a boat, but if you need to, you can unset the sail, you're at a stop, and you can still rotate the boat around. So this definitely makes navigating, very friendly. You also have the option to put your boat into reverse if you're stuck. And in general, the larger ships and the smaller ships, all of the movement feels very similar. The only difference is with the larger ship, the hitbox is a little different. So size does matter if you're trying to get into certain spots. And let me show you one. So this, for example, this is the agility shortcut between the swamp and the desert here in Lumbridge. The small boat can make it through that, no problem. The big boat cannot. It's just too big. So it is something to kind of keep in mind. Now, the hitboxes are a little bit clunky still. I mean, they're pretty good, considering this is an alpha, but you will still find some times where, like, you might be not exactly touching something, but then you run into it, or you'll run into something like this, where, like, this looks open, and this looks like you should be able to travel through it, but you just can't. Now, I don't know if that means we're never going to get movement through this stuff, if it's going to be like a permanent blockage for us, or if this is more just a product of the alpha, but something to kind of keep in mind as you're tooling around. Also, this is reverse, if you're curious. Can help you get out of pretty much any spot, really. I've not found myself stuck on the boat anywhere, but if you seriously can't leave, if your boat actually does get stuck, there is an escape option on here. But there's probably not a lot else to say really about the movement. I mean, it's pretty straightforward. You just kind of click around. Every 30 seconds, you get a little burst of wind, and that's going to let you move a little bit faster. See if we can skirt our way through. Nice. So there is that little bit of wind. It just speeds you up. You get a little bit of XP. I will share some thoughts at the end about this. One other thing you want to be careful of, the initial raft is not strong enough to survive the seas that are out here around Temperos. You're going to want to come back and do this one later. If you're curious what happens when your ship runs out of HP, because it does have its own HP meter, I guess you're about to find out. We're not going to survive very long in here, but you do have quite a bit of time, at least for now. And that is it. Now, if you're curious, is it a safe death if your ship goes under? It is. I still have my hardcore status on here, so we're totally good, but it does put you at 1 HP, so be a little bit careful. And if you need to reclaim your ship, if you're on this island, you can talk to Junior Jim. Otherwise, it'll be like the shipwrights. You just right-click them. You'll see those options. Normally, there'd be a fee. There's not for the alpha, but once you start this process, it takes a second, and there we go. So now we've got our boat back. We can get back on that if we want to. So now that we're back here, let's talk a bit about port tasks. You kind of already got to experience this with the intro quest, but to be a little bit more detailed, if you look at the board here, you'll see a number of tasks. Right now, combat is not enabled in the alpha, so you don't want to take these ones that have like the shark face or whatever, but the rest of these should be good to go. And you'll notice a couple of things as like a quick take on here. You've got a level requirement for sailing in the little blue icon. You've got what port you need to grab the stuff from and what port it goes to. The port that the stuff goes to is actually that little image right here as well. And if you click into these, you'll be able to see all of those details laid out in text, and you can pick up the port task. Now, you are able to pick up multiple tasks, and if you want to see how many you're able to pick up, go into your captain log here, and you can right-click View Tasks. So you can see I'm holding on to 2. Ideally, you want to get tasks that go to the same port. When you turn these in, you get XP, you get rewards, and you can also tell that in the future, we're going to unlock even more of these, so you can double up, triple up, quintuple up on the efficiency by picking up all of these tasks that have you going from, say, like Pandemonium to Port Sarim. So it's a pretty cool system. I definitely like the layout of this. The rewards themselves, I mean, it gives a little bit of XP. This is probably going to be like a primary training method for you in terms of the skill. So kind of cool system, especially if you like Slayer or like Hunter Rumors. It's kind of in that same vein. Next up, let's talk port masters and ship facilities. So on Pandemonium, Junior Jim is the port master. In other ports, there's actually a dude called Port Master. Once you hit level 10 sailing in the alpha, you do get a free boat. So let's go in here and just see what it looks like to customize. You'll see multiple options pop up if you have multiple boats. The only real difference between the boats are going to be how many areas there are on the boat to customize it. There is also this chest here with unlimited supplies, so this is everything that you need to customize it, and also the red berry pie. If you are doing that mini quest that I mentioned earlier, this is where you can get that red berry pie. Don't worry, it took me a minute to find it too, so that'll help you. But let's talk about each of the spots on the boat. Now, first, let's talk about modifying the boat schematics. So if you look here, you'll have options to kind of do like the core pieces of the ship. So we've got hull. Currently it's a wooden hull. Oak is going to be level 12. You'll need a higher level hull and a higher level sail in order to take on the Barracuda trials later, which we'll talk about in a bit. But this is where you're going to upgrade those. You'll see the material costs, you'll see the level requirements, things like that. Once you do it, it's just kind of like click of the box, it's done. And then you have the different facilities on the ship. Now the larger ship has 3, the smaller ship only has 1. For the larger ship, you can see you can put a cannon on the front. You've also got things like the salvaging hooks. Since combat isn't enabled in the alpha, the cannon isn't really useful. It's just kind of like a thing for show, if you will. The salvaging hooks, though, we are going to need those later, but we'll build that out once I've got myself a little bit more XP. You've got the cargo hold here in the middle. It's what we were using on the smaller boat to hold kind of like the package-related stuff that we were doing for port tasks. And then on the back, you have the wind catcher and the anchor. The wind catcher, when you get the opportunity to trim your sails, it'll actually hold onto that speed boost for you, and then you can use it anytime that you want. It'll hold up to 3 of them, and when you activate it, it's also going to give you a larger drop of XP. So once you are level 12, I'd recommend using this because it's going to help you passively level through the sailing alpha up to 30 much faster. The anchor, it just stops your ship immediately. There is a little bit of a slowdown once you unset your sails without this. I haven't personally found much use for this, maybe sometime in like the Barracuda trials, but I think at least for now, there's not like a ton of super useful things for this. I mean, even the Barracuda trials, I don't think you need this here. But if you want it, you want to stop your ship immediately, that's what this is used for. So that are all of the options that we have available to us at the moment. And something to keep in mind with all of these, each have different ways of being interacted with, similar to the sail when you're out on the water. You can do it all yourself, but if you have others on your boat, they can do it as well. Now, crews are not available in the alpha, but that's something kind of fun to start thinking around. You know, if you have like some cannons on there, maybe you and your buddies, like you steer the boat, they aim and shoot the cannons. Like, I think it's going to be a pretty good time. But we'll just have to wait and see until that stuff is available for us. But for now, let me get myself to level 12 really quick, and then we're going to talk charting the seas. There we go, level 12. My boat's a little more tricked out. Got ourselves some facilities built out. So let us talk charting the seas. And for those of you following along at home, that is this one right here. Now, first things first, you may be wondering, where do I get the tools to do this stuff? If you open up your cargo hold, you'll see this charting tools thing in the bottom left. If you right click it, you can do take all. That'll just give you one of everything, so you're good to go. Go ahead and put the diving apparatus and stuff on as well, so you don't have to worry about it. Now, there's a number of things that you could do for charting the seas. First is going to be looking through your spyglass. And there's a specific look to all of this stuff, so let me show you what one of the spots looks like where you can actually use your spyglass. Okay, here is one right here. Kind of got this bubbly, glowy looking water. I need 13 sailing. Okay, 1 second. Where was I? So this sort of like bubbly water stuff. Once you're near it, you just click the spyglass. It's gonna let you do this. You'll end up getting a little bit of sailing XP. It's gonna tick off a little box for you, both for the alpha kind of like checklist thing and in the captain's log. There's a little bit of sailing XP. And for anyone who was curious where that was, Pandemonium's right down there. It's just a little bit northwest. So if you're desperate for a spot, that's one. There's also quite a few around Karamja. So you can kind of just circle around Karamja and you'll be able to find some. Next up on the list is going to be mermaids. You need to make sure that you have the diving apparatus on you. Once you do, just ask them if you can dive to the sea floor. She'll give you a little riddle or puzzle or whatever. This first one is for apple pie. It's gonna be a cooking apple, a pot of flour, and a pie dish. You don't have to worry about water because they already have a lot of that. You're welcome. Oh man, I know. I got stuck here for a while because I didn't read the text, dude. Oh, what a pain in the butt. I kept trying to do water, flour, like the pie dough or whatever. Oh, what a pain. So there you go. Now, for those of you curious, I'm just tooling around up here, just going northwest, kind of making my way over towards like the Crandor area. If you're following a similar route, you're going to end up passing one of these sealed crates. Now, one of the tools that you cannot get just straight up from your cargo hold is a crowbar. This comes from that mini quest that I mentioned before, Prying Times. So if you want to dig around and open up those crates, go and do that mini quest and you will get the crowbar. And remember, The red berry pie that you're going to need for that is going to be in your ship customization chest with all of the other supplies. Once you are level 17 sailing, there is a troll over here that you're able to help. It's just a little bit on like the southwest side of Remington. You'll need the anti-rust tonic. And once you're done with the dialogue, they will give you this portable weather station. Now, if you want to solve this yourself, by all means, I got a little bit stuck on this for a while because it's kind of specific. And I really hope in the future, if they do more of these types of things, they give some like visual indicators, because you can take readings. It tells you like which direction the wind's blowing, and you're trying to find where the wind is not blowing. And it just doesn't feel super intuitive to me. So I just want to show you where you can solve this in case you're stuck like I was. It's going to be in this gap between Crandor and Entrana, and it's somewhere right around here in the middle. You just kind of come over here, click around a bit, and it's tough sometimes. I mean, you can see just like how brutal this really is, because you have to be pretty close to the spot. So I wouldn't blame you if you miss it. So right there you can see, and I'll just pull up the map as well. And this is the spot. Right here, this freaking spot, dude. I swear, I spent an hour trying to find this. Golly, I'm so glad there were some like heroes in a boat who came to save me. So if you're stuck, that's where you need to go. But this is one of those charting activities. And now that we've got this done, I'm gonna head back over towards Port Sarim, Draenor area, and show you one other activity for charting the seas. So the other activity that you can do while you're kind of scouting out things on the ocean is the current duck. It's a real duck. You're looking for these sort of waves in the water. This means that you're able to do that. And you just get close, plop that boy down, and he's going to go to town. You're just going to follow him. Make sure to click your navigation helm as well. If you don't put yourself back on there, you're going to be like walking on your boat, and he's going to get a little bit ahead of you. But essentially, you just follow him around until he stops, and he'll quack at you if he gets a little bit far. And then for this particular one, the duck's going to stop here. Once it's done, you just click collect. You'll pick him up, and that'll have charted the currents of, you know, that little area that you were following along in. Now, if you want even more stuff that you can track, you can go view charts in the captain's log, and there is this whole long list of stuff that you can do. If you click on them, they'll also tell you if there's any sort of like requirement on there as well. You'll get a little bit of XP every time you do something the first time. So for folks who really love like exploring around and doing this stuff, there is an absolute ton that you can explore and just really spend a lot of time with. Personally, this one's not super for me, so just doing kind of the initial checklist here is plenty. But now that the seas are charted, let's move on to Shipwreck Salvaging. You are going to need a salvaging hook, so if you don't have one of those, pick up the bronze or the iron. Both are going to be fine. Now, for Shipwreck Salvaging, if you look on the map, you'll see this little icon for salvaging spots. You'll also notice when you're here, you'll see this sort of like sunken shipwreck, and you'll also see one that is out of the water up over here. This functions as a kind of like semi-AFK activity. These have a little bit of a cooldown, so you'll have to bounce between a couple of spots, but let me just go over here. Oh my God. And I ran into it and it sunk. Okay, we'll move on to the next spot. I'm sorry, all right. We're working on our navigation skills. I think that was just poor timing. I don't think it's because I hit it, but I could be wrong. But once you're parked up next to one of these, you just come over here and you deploy the salvaging hook. And that's just gonna slowly over time, like fill up your inventory with this stuff. Now, at some point this may sink. That's totally fine. Just look around for the other ones. You just need ones that are popped up on top of the surface. And it'll tell you, if you try to deploy your hook on one that's sunken, your character will be like, oh, hey, you think we should really do that? Let's go find another one. So there's a prompt, so you don't have to worry about it too much. Now, once your inventory gets full, you can come and bring your stuff to your cargo hold if you've got one and deposit that there, just so you can stay out a little bit longer. And you'll notice the XP, it's pretty decent. Little bits just slowly over time. So definitely very passive. And if you really wanted to do this a lot, you just clear the inventory out, kind of let the whole thing fill up. Now, I think that's enough for now. Let me show you what you do with it once you're done. So you build up your inventory, you build up your storage. You want to make your way back over to one of the ports. Once you're back, you will need the stuff in your inventory. You'll find a salvaging station and you just go to it and you can sort. Now, if you have a lot on your boat, you know, you'll be running back and forth a little bit for your boat to kind of like get all that stuff out of your inventory. and bring it over to this table. And it's not too bad, you know, you're pretty close to the boat. You just run there, kind of take stuff into your inventory, run back, and salvage the stuff. This is where you get the rewards. No XP on this side, so the XP is only as you're collecting the materials. Now, there are higher level spots available as well. So if you have yourself the iron hook, out here west of Karamja, there's another salvaging spot. You'll get better salvage as well. Once you clean it off, you'll get better rewards. I was seeing things up to like ruined short swords, so could be good for things like alcohols as well. And truthfully, I think salvaging has been one of my favorite activities in the alpha so far. So if you're like me, you like the AFK activities, this is probably going to be the one for you. We're back on the boat, and next up on the list is exploration. They have added 4 little islands here, and you're gonna have to go pretty far south to get to these, as well as the Great Conch. You're not able to land on this one, but the other 4 you are able to land, and that is one of the alpha tasks as well in here. Now, I'm not necessarily gonna show off all of the islands. I think there are some fun little things to explore while you're around here. This is probably one of the strongest, if not the strongest case for sailing. Being able to travel to these different islands, kind of had different biomes and things that you can explore. And that is something that I'm also quite excited about. Now, it is going to take you quite a while to get down here just because it's so far out there. But that's okay because you want to be kind of high sailing by the time you get out here anyway, because landing on the islands and other ports in general are dependent on your sailing level. I think the islands out here are in the 20 range. So let me just go dock on this little island that's off here to the left, just so you can see what that looks like. So once you are here, you'll see this little disembark point. There's also going to be these dock buoys. So if you want this to be kind of like your spawning point for your boat, you can have this set out here. I wouldn't do it for this particular island, but once you disembark, you just land on the island. That's going to be the little task for you. Oh, goodness. Just a bunch of skeletons. Please let me out. Don't want to lose the helmet. Hardcore status. But yes, you should be able to go around. And by the time you're like 23, 25 sailing, you can come around to these southern islands over here. The only one, like I mentioned before, that you can't land on is the Great Conch. They're saving that for later on. So you can sail around the island just to see kind of some of the stuff that's on there. But if you actually go to the docking point, it just won't let you off. So I wouldn't worry about wasting your time going all the way down there. But there's not really much else to say about exploration. I want to leave that for you guys. Go to these islands, check them out if that's something that you're into. So let's move on to the last part of the alpha. There we go, 30 sailing. That is what you're gonna need for this last thing, which is gonna be the Barracuda Trials. You can find this just a little bit south of the Pandemonium. It's going to be this whole area around here, and we're looking for that little fish symbol. That's kind of like the starting boat, this guy over here. To start, you're just going to talk with this guy, go through a little bit of the dialogue, and then eventually, once you're done with that, he's going to get some options that are going to let you run the trial. So you can right-click him, start trial. You're going to see all of these different ranks here. Now, essentially what this functions as is a timed movement challenge. You've got the little blue circles here. These speed your ships up. You've got clouds which shoot lightning, and if they hit you, they do 10 damage and they slow you down. Plus the rocks that you have to navigate around. And the goal is to pick up all of these crates that are in the water. Plus, there is a rum shipment that you need to pick up towards the halfway point of this circle. Give me 1 second and we're going to get over there. Oof, I just missed that one. That's unfortunate. It's okay, we're not going for speed run times here, but you can see I do have that time limit of 2 minutes if I want to make the rank. So this little boat at the halfway point, you're going to collect the rum from him. He's going to chuck it into the ocean, but I promise it went into your ship. And then you're going to make your way back around. So the idea behind this is just to beat whatever this time is. And the higher the tier, the higher the challenge. You'll essentially be having to make multiple laps with every increase in difficulty. Now, as I demonstrated earlier, you're going to need the upgraded hull and sails for your boat in order to survive in this sea. Even with the free larger boat, it does not start with that, so you have to upgrade your ship in order to have that. If you come here without it, you're just going to end up taking damage and sinking. Now, to tie this back to something else that I said earlier, both the raft and this boat move at the same speed, so something that you can do if you're struggling to get through these challenges is to try it with an upgraded raft. Just make sure you have the oak sails and hull, that way you can survive on the sea, but you can upgrade the raft form to have those. That will help you navigate, like if you're struggling with the rocks, or maybe you're getting hit by a lot of the lightning, that can really help. Since they're both the same speed, the only thing that you're really losing out on is the extra facilities on your ship, but you don't need them for the Barracuda trial. And because level 30 is the max while we're in the Sailing Alpha, it's not like you're gonna need this stuff for like more XP or anything like that. So I would highly encourage, if you're struggling going through this, go and get the smaller raft and give that one a try. Now, the final rank is quite difficult. I haven't been able to beat it myself. It's a 5-minute timer, and you have to do 3 full laps of picking up all of this stuff. It's a pretty tough time. So if you like a challenge, you like the movement stuff, I think the most comparable thing would be like Sepulcher for agility, but this is a little bit, I think, like a little bit, maybe more like free-flowing than the Sepulcher is. It's not quite as stressful, I don't think. But if you like that type of content, then this can be a really good thing to kind of play around with and just see if you can beat that final challenge, man. That 5 minutes thing is pretty tough. Gosh dang it, even on this one, I missed a crate somewhere. I'm not even gonna finish a trial on this account. I swear I was able to get up to a couple of ranks on there. But let me go ahead and just give you some of my final thoughts after playing around in the alpha. Keep in mind, it is an alpha. I don't expect things are the final versions here or anything like that. And I'm not necessarily dunking on the skill or anything when I'm giving this feedback. But I do have a few things that I want to point out. And I'm curious if you all agree with me once you've had a chance to kind of play around in the alpha. I generally like the movement and the turning. Some of the hitboxes don't feel intuitive with collisions, such as like that agility shortcut that I showcased earlier, and also with things like the lightning clouds, especially on the larger boat. Sometimes you're gonna pass through that stuff and you're gonna feel like you shouldn't have been hit, but you do. And also there's gonna be times where you pass through it and like you were under the cloud and it did nothing to you. So there's still some polish that's needed here, and I'm sure that is something that'll be worked out over time, but I just wanted to throw that out there. And again, as I mentioned this before, I also feel like the speed is a little bit on the slow side. Really, I like the wind boost aspect of it, and I like the speed of the wind boost. I think the base speed of the boat should be that wind speed boost, and then we can still get the wind speed boost on top of it. Hopefully that makes sense. I feel like I just said wind speed boost a bunch of times. For the sea charting stuff, I already know like the completionist part of me is going to want to go through and do that. But in terms of like the actual activity, I don't find it that interesting myself. But I will say, because I know I'm going to want to finish this, the freaking weather pattern thing, oh my God, for charting, it needs that visual cue. I mentioned this earlier. Like, you gotta show that I'm on the spot, man. Like, it could be that this is planned and maybe they didn't include it in the alpha, but if not, please, 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 please include some sort of visual reference, because gosh dang, I was stuck there for like an hour on my first run through, and I was not the only one. Like, every boat that I passed, I'm like, have you guys completed this? Have you guys completed it? Literally all of them. They're like sitting around, they're like, I have no idea what to do. And I think that just shows like there really needs to be something different for these portable weather stations to really help you like know that you're in the right place. And especially, man, that passage, I was in there clicking this thing just over and over, but maybe it was just the spot was too specific. Not really sure, but I definitely think that needs a little bit of looking at. Now, outside of that, I really love the salvaging and the exploration aspects. I know both of these are going to get better with more content, so I'm really looking forward to more of that stuff in a future beta. But that is all I've got for the alpha. Some of you had asked for a way to support the channel, and I have channel memberships now. These won't change anything about my normal content schedule, but if you do want to sign up, both tiers will get access to my videos as soon as they pop out of the editing software. So you'll end up getting them anywhere from like a day to about a week early, just depending on the content schedule. The Lumberjack Fanatic tier also has access to the behind the scenes content if that's something that interests you. And of course, if you want to see anything else in the memberships, just let me know. So with that, thanks for watching, and I'd recommend getting caught up on my transportation only Iron Man journey over here, because sailing is going to be crazy for that account.